Welcome to Good Burger Reviews. My name is John, and I'm here to review a brand new 26 movie, and that movie is Scary Movie 6.
Guess who's back?
Shit.
Back again.
My God, he stabbed her! Not her! My pronouns are they, them. He stabbed them!
We back.
This movie was released in June of 2026. It is directed by Michael Titus. It stars Anna Faris, Marlon Wayans, Regina Hall, Shawn Wayans, Sherry Otero, Lachlan Monroe, Chris Elliott, Damon Wayans, Olivia Rose Keegan, Dave Sheridan, Carmen Electra, Felicia Rose, Kim Wayans, Greg Wayans, and so much more. Okay. Basic premise. Multiple friends find themselves caught up in mayhem involving killers, monsters, and supernatural creatures once again. Straight out of the theater from Scary Movie 6, and I am happy to say that I was highly anticipating this one. I really enjoyed the franchise. I just did a franchise ranking, and I'm here to do a review to figure out if this new Scary Movie is following the footsteps of a train wreck franchise, or if it's bringing the franchise back in a new and fun way, and bringing comedy back as well. So let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly on Scary Movie 6. So the first thing I'll put in the positives is this movie is extremely funny. I think they did come as close as they can to recapturing the magic of the original Scary Movie. And I think a big thing that has to do with that is they went back to their roots and they mimicked the Scream franchise mostly. Now, there is a movie blend in here, lots of movies, almost too many to name. I will try and cover all the movies I saw parodied in this review, but the main ones are Sinners, obviously Scream, Smile, Weapons, Terrifier, The Substance, Long Legs, and even movies like Michael. So bringing back the old cast, I really enjoyed that. As I had mentioned in my Scary Movie franchise ranking, after Scary Movie 5 and lacking all the main original characters, it felt like the franchise was pretty much dead until now. Now, it does feature a lot of the original people, but the four main stars, Marlon Wayans, Shawn Wayans, Anna Faris, and Regina Hall, or Ray, Shorty, Brenda, and Cindy. Basically, it seemed like back in the day when the original Scary Movie was out, one of them was always stealing the show a little bit more than the others. And in this one, it's definitely Shorty. I felt like this was the Shorty show. Shorty definitely hogged the spotlight and was the funniest of all of them, which was good because he is funny. And we'll get into how I feel about all the others' performances. Shorty is the character that, obviously is always smoking weed. He smokes weed in this one. And just a funny tidbit. Soon as this movie started, I instantly smelt weed. I almost got a second high. I might still be on my second high. The theater wasn't sold out, but there was enough people in there, and enough of them felt comfortable enough to light up and, watch Scary Movie in their favorite way to watch it, which is high. Now, for me, it just added to the atmosphere of the entire movie. Smelling it made me feel like I was actually in the movie. It was better than surround sound. It was like surround smell.
I see dead people.
Man, this shit is awesome.
Yo, son, you gotta roll some more of that shit outside.
So also in the positives was basically bringing back Ghostface. I would say, other than Shorty, Ghostface stole the show the most next. Ghostface was funny, brutal, and he pretty much was in every aspect of the movie, which I liked. It gave the movie the feel of an actual story and not just a bunch of sketches thrown together.
Serial killer on the loose.
Hello, Tuesday.
Other parody movies that I felt had strength in this movie was definitely Sinners. So their take on Sinners was definitely hilarious.
Hey there. We heard tell of a Halloween party. We're here to drink, play bad music, do some half gay shit.
Why just half gay?
Ray's character mainly, and some of the younger cast take the Sinners roles on, and it blended well with what was going on with the basically Scream. This basically followed the plot of Scream 5 mostly, a little bit of Scream 6, and a little bit of all the other movies blended in, but this is mostly a redo of Scream 5. I felt like the movie did justice to spoofing Scream, just like it did in the past. You know, including all like the outside drama that's going on in the Scream franchise, blending that in with stuff that's going on with Scream, even razzing things like the Core 4, Gen Z cast, you know, all that type of stuff. Other parodies that I thought were funny was like Terrifier and Substance. And we'll get into how the parody took over the whole movie as a whole, because I am mixed on that a little bit. Another thing I'll put on the positive is the return of Chris Elliott. I had mentioned in my Scary Movie franchise ranking that I wasn't a fan of Chris Elliott in Scary Movie 2. However, he came back and he portrayed Longlegs in this movie, though he was a blend of his old character because he still had the hand thing going. But I felt like it was done better this time. He was a parody of an actual character, and his hand jokes were in there enough but didn't overstay their welcome in the movie. Also, I felt like Chris Elliott did a really good job of parodying Longlegs and many of the Longlegs scenes. Even though there's a little bit of a Longlegs plot going on blended in with the Scream plot, it kind of pops in and out.
Oh, but it seems I wore my long legs today. What happens if I...
So I'll let that lead me to the mixed. And what I'm mixed on is kind of how they blended the movies this time as compared to how they've done it in the past, or what made it successful in the past. So what made Scary Movie, the original, so successful was the perfect blend of Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then just throwing in a few movies here and there, other popular movies from the time and end of the past as well. Here, I felt like the parodies overall were pretty good, but it definitely was overstuffed. They tried to parody too much. So
Sink into the chair.
that was another good one, actually. I love the Get Out thing. So I feel like the blend was mainly Scream 5, a little bit of Scream 6, Sinners and Smile, I felt like, and Longlegs could have been blended in a little bit more, but they definitely those parodies got a little bit sidelined. And I think that just is to the writing of trying to blend them all evenly, or at least 2 or 3 evenly, and then the rest can just have one gag.
Base is still killing folks.
You know what they say about the crazy ones? They got the best.
You suck! Boo your ass!
So like there was a Substance moment. That was Gail Hailstone's part. Like they did one scene of the Substance, and it just was her character going to like a lab and getting injected by the stuff by Ghostface. And you know, that was okay. I mean, it was funny. It was pulled off funny because of what happens, and that'll just be in spoilers.
Mom, Santa gave me a severed arm. Be sure to thank him. What the?
You know, they blend Terrifier via flashback of Cindy Campbell flashback to like her when her and her child are younger. Anna Faris basically was trying to blend Neve Campbell and Jamie Lee Curtis, or Sidney Prescott and Laurie Strode, modern Laurie Strode, or most recent Laurie Strode, blended together. And I felt like she did a good job on that.
If the way I raised your mother means that she hates me, but that she's prepared for the horrors of this world, then I can live with that.
I'm Sidney fucking Prescott. Of course I have a gun.
So when it came to the sex jokes, the poop jokes, the drug jokes, I felt like they didn't overtake the movie like in some of the former installments. I felt like they were in there just enough, and as sideline jokes, not like the main event jokes. I felt like they did a good enough job parodying the movies there. They also had like political jokes, and the political jokes were really funny. And they had jokes about like pronouns, transgender people, or the whole LBGT, like the whole enchilada, like everything in there. They kind of had jokes on that, you know, and we saw that in the trailer. There wasn't too much added to that other than what we saw in the trailer. But again, I felt like those jokes were just kind of would pop in and out here and there and didn't overtake the whole thing. Now, there was one sideline of jokes, I guess the racism. So like a lot of commentary on racism and you know, being black. There was just this whole theme about black people in cinema, black people with slavery, black people. And most of the jokes took, but I felt like of all the things that could have just been more on the side, that one was the strongest.
You know what the difference is between you and me? I make this look good.
And I guess that'll let me get to the negatives. And I think I've kind of touched on the mix, but it's more of the negative. It's just the overstuffed feeling of parodying too much and too much nostalgia. So like, and this is, all these legacy sequels are guilty of this. It's a lot of, like I said, with Scary Movie 2, being a lot of the same jokes by a lot of the same characters. You know, and here we are 26 years later having the same jokes by the same characters. Now, did it take over the entire movie? No. But I felt like it could have been dialed back just a little bit. I feel like with the nostalgia, they go for too much nostalgia. And I think nostalgia can be fun, and it's great. I mean, the characters are nostalgic enough for them to kind of recreate the exact lines is too much for me. Like, I think when you have the characters doing similar things, similar jokes, but the same exact joke. So, you know, and it was just too much of that.
Stop smiling!
Now, were the jokes funny? Hell yeah. Even some of the repetitive jokes were really funny. I felt myself laughing a lot, and my theater was laughing a lot. I felt like the majority of the people I went to the movie with seemed just random people that were in there. I could hear them laughing, most of them. However, I did have one heckler and one complainer, so I guess there's always got to be one in the bunch that just wasn't a fan of it, and I could tell they definitely were not a fan of the nostalgic stuff. And they just whined a lot, but you know, whatever. So the last thing I'll put in the negatives was, I said at the beginning of the review that Shorty was the standout. He stole most of the scenes. I felt like everyone else, all the old school characters, did a good job. Cindy, Brenda, Ray, they were pretty standard with their acting. Brenda's always funny, and Brenda's was the one that always stole the show from me. She had less to do in this one. I think that had to do with how overstuffed, not only with all the parodies and all the things they were trying to put in here, but the amount of characters that were put in here to make it work. Because you do have all the legacy people, including like Lachlan Monroe and Doofy and Sherry and, you know, Gail Hailstorm, and even Cindy's boyfriend, what was his name, Billy? I forget, the boyfriend from the first one. He basically had a cameo. But then you also have a lot of Gen Z characters parodying, you know, Gen Z roles. You know, a lot of the Scream and Halloween characters. And it just put a lot of people in there. It was just a lot. So some of these people who I wanted to see them shine more, i.e. Regina and Anna, kind of got a little sidelined. Though I did love their parts. And they are funny.
Everywhere I go, I see the same house.
And I will say that Ray had a great Sinners moment, but then I felt like he was sidelined a lot as well. So I guess the only way to make this all make sense is for us to get into spoilers. I am going to give this a recommend. I will put a timestamp so you can see what the rating is at the end of the video. Go ahead and see it. I mean, if you like the original scary movies, or at least 3 of the 5 scary movies, then you'll like this. In fact, I would say I did my scary movie franchise ranking first, and I feel like right now Scary Movie 6 could slide in right at number 2, but I need to give it a second watch and see where time puts it. It could slide down a little bit lower, maybe not. I don't know. I like I said, time will tell, but it was definitely on the good side. So go ahead and give Scary Movie a watch and come back and watch the spoiler sections after you've seen it. Okay, so spoilers. So this movie basically starts off with the plot of Scream 5. You have basically dollar store Samantha Carpenter, who her character was one of my least favorites. I just didn't like the way the actress did it. I just wasn't a fan of that one. She was okay. I just felt like not even the actress as much as maybe the way that character was written. But, you know, there was, it definitely, this opens up with a Scream 6 opener and then goes into the Scream 5 plot. And you have Tuesday, who is basically a dollar store Jenna Ortega, who basically is playing the terror role, but is Tuesday, and which is obviously a mock on Wednesday, but she doesn't really act like Wednesday. She just, I mean, I guess they called her Tuesday because Jenna Ortega does play Wednesday, and they even kind of address copyright issues by calling her Wednesday, so they call her Tuesday. But Tuesday actually was pretty impressive, the girl who played Tuesday, and she had some pretty intense moments. And she definitely goes through the terror of Scream 5 plot. And then you have basically dollar store Samantha Carpenter dating a character named Jack, which is obviously Jack Quaid or, you know, Richie. And basically the entire movie, they're calling him the killer. Never trust the love interest. They definitely ride that joke a lot, the love interest joke. That character was funny. He also had the Sinners moment. He's the one in the doorway that says, you know, we're here to party and do half gay stuff. But he's also Richie. Okay, so what wasn't in the trailer about that scene when the door opens and you have the Sinners parody there? They do a song just like in Sinners, except for they do the most Irishy, folky, white-sounding version of the theme song from the Jeffersons, as Shorty, Brenda, and Ray stand there in complete shock and disturbed about how terrible, and they refer to it as the Black National Anthem. So it's hard to really say how much of the plot there really is. It really is the plot of Scream 5, but I'll just go over some of the highlights of what I really liked. So like the Get Out parody was probably one of the best ones. That was hilarious. Ghostface shows up and does the whole hypnotizing Shorty and sinks him into the sunken place. But then when he goes into the sunken place, it's basically a play on that K-pop movie. I've never seen it, but it was apparently, I know it was a huge hit, very popular, people love it, and they do a whole song and everything, which was kind of funny. I feel like if I'd seen that movie, I would have thought it was even funnier, but the song is about Shorty and smoking weed, so I mean, it's funny. So highlights for Lachlan Monroe, he basically plays a sheriff, and he has a transgender son who was a girl, now a boy, and there's jokes on that. And Lachlan Monroe's big joke is his small dick, just like it was in the original Scary Movie. I felt like those jokes were really funny because they do a whole montage of it on him. And then Doofy. So Special Officer Doofy's in this. He's back with Gail Hailstorm. They were okay. I mean, Doofy definitely stands out more than Gail. I feel like Doofy, of all the smaller roles, had the most to do for the adult roles. And you know, it was a lot of the same jokes for him, but his were funny, and he was really funny. So like, they were trying to definitely parody David Arquette and all of that, and I felt like most of his stuff was funny. And it wasn't too many poopy jokes, but just enough. And he poops when he gets killed, so that was funny.
Special Officer Doofy.
Oh, hi, Doofy. Doofy, listen, is there a problem on campus?
No comment.
Okay.
No comment.
Okay. You know, you look awfully young to be a police officer.
So I already touched on Gail Hailstorm does a substance scene. I thought that was really good. She gets like Botox lips and all this stuff, and it goes into this parody of when Demi Moore in The Substance cuts open, and you know, you expect something to come out, and what comes out is the Epstein files, and that was kind of played off really funny. The other thing that pops out of The Substance Girl was white chick, but then it just kind of ends with that. So Substance was done. Where I was let down was pretty much the Smile and the Weapons parodies. Smile 3, I felt like they could have brought more, or Smile 3, Smile parody could have been parodied better. It just was Anna Faris, Cindy saying, "Stop smiling at me," and a few characters here and there, and then just saying, "Oh, I must have a curse." I felt like, if anything, Smile 3 could have been blended more into this plot, the way Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer blended. Smile and I Know It, or Smile and Scream could have blended a little bit better as the main thriving story, and not just Scream 5 only as the main story. You know, giving Cindy more of a curse to deal with and a little bit more parodies on Smile. I mean, there were a few good parody Smiles. I thought they were going to parody the best scene from Smile, and they didn't. And there's a lot that the Smile franchise has to offer for them to parody, and I just felt like it fell short there. The other big disappointment with parodies was Weapons. I had said this during my Horror Academies that I did at the beginning of the year, after the Horror Academies did this entire parody of Weapons, thinking that Scary Movie 6 was going to do a parody of Weapons and have Aunt Gladys. There was no Aunt Gladys. So I saw pictures of Aunt Gladys attached to Scary Movie, so I don't know how those must have been faked. So no Aunt Gladys. The only thing that happens with Weapons is they accidentally give drugs to Halloween candy kids. Like, they put it in Halloween candy, and the candy gets handed out, and the kids are stoned, and that's why they're running down the street like that. And that really was lame. Like, that was the only lamest. That was probably the lamest parody in the movie. And again, I felt like they could have done so much more with Weapons as well. But they didn't. So that was it. It was just kind of a throw-in gag just to have it in the trailer. So a lot of these were thrown in there just to have them in the trailer. Okay, so let's get to the ending. So actually, I was pretty happy with the ending. Finding out who Ghostface is. So, like, there's this whole John Wick thing where Cindy goes from being Jamie Lee Curtis to, like, literally the original Cindy that she was in a John Wick version of her. She shows up to the party scene at the end of the movie, ready to basically kick ass, and she does, and then, like, tons of Ghostfaces show up. And I love that whole aesthetic of, like, it was at least 5 or 6 of them. At least 5 or 6 Ghostface. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, she beats a lot of Ghostface up. It's lots of action. It's funny. Typical Scary Movie action comedy type of stuff. And they are kind of pulling off the Richie and Amber plot as well, with this one girl. The girl who was like the Amber knockoff was okay. She was like a total whore, though. Most of her jokes were hoe jokes. There were some funny hoe jokes. But, like, of course, Scary Movie wants to subvert the expectations. So, like, Richie and Amber, or the knockoffs of Richie and Amber, are not the killers. It's really, so the big spoilers here, the killers are Shorty and Ray, which they basically were killing everyone because they were mad that they were kicked out of Scary Movie 3, 4, and they don't even say 5. They acknowledge that 5 is terrible, in fact. They were mad that they weren't involved in 3 and 4, and then they were teamed up with Anthony Anderson, so he had a surprise cameo, and Kevin Hart didn't. And, like, I guess Kevin Hart didn't want to be in it, apparently. Or at least that's what the character said. Like, that he was asked and he wasn't in it. Another person who I was surprised wasn't in it was Buffy. Shannon Elizabeth. I don't know why she wasn't back. Maybe I felt like I read something where, like, she was kind of bothered that she wasn't back. Anyhow, I don't know. That's all just gossip in the airwaves. But, yeah, Kevin Hart wasn't back either, but Anthony Anderson's one of the Ghostface, and then Shaq from Scary Movie 4, you know, who they had roasted in Scary Movie 1. So they were all Ghostface, so it was kind of like a cult of Ghostfaces, which was fun. And then, like, they literally decide to take on Brenda and Cindy, and they kill all the Gen Z characters. Like, every Gen Z character gets killed, and they're like, we're not passing on this franchise to nobody. This is our franchise. So that was a funny ending. And they basically set the entire Matthew Lillard house on fire and storm off, and they're butt naked in the back, which, whatever, that was funny. But if you go to see this, definitely stay through the credits. There are 2 post-credit scenes. Both of them are Longlegs related. Chris Elliott does a very funny mimic of Longlegs killing himself, and then there's a second mimic which is, like, separated by a bottom part of credits, but, like, of the detectives from Longlegs having a conversation with Longlegs on the TV in the background, just like in the movie, and it was good. So the post-credit scenes were funny, and the end was definitely funny.
Somebody help! Help!
Bitch, we on break. So you handle yours. I'll be right over here eating my falafel and my pork rinds. Bitch.
So we're gonna get down to business on this one. So those of you who have skipped past the spoilers, I will just say, if you do go to see the movie, stay. There are after credit scenes, and that's all I'll say outside of spoilers. 2 after credit scenes, so, like, not just 1 but 2. But we're gonna get down to business on this one. This one, overall, it's a good burger. I really did enjoy it. I was laughing a lot. Like, yes, some of the jokes have been done before. Yes, there was a lot of nostalgia. Yes, it was overstuffed with too much. But at the end of the day, it was executed really good and funny. And at the end, like, that's the best part. Like, that's the part. If I was entertained enough, despite some of the nostalgia stuff, it was fine. So I recommend go see it. I mean, Scary Movie 6. I mean, you know it's not going to top the original. But considering how much time has passed and how much we need some good comedies in this day and age. So please, like, subscribe, tap that notification bell, all that jazz.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
What am I waiting for? What am I waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
You!
And don't forget to stay scared of a cult of ghost faces that want to be comedy maniacs.
Hey there, we heard tell of a Halloween party. We're here to drink, play bad music, do some half-gay shit.
Why just half gay?
Well, we're moving on now. We're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. We're moving on up to the east side. We finally got a piece of the pie. Fish don't fry in the kitchen. Beans don't burn on the grill. Took a whole lot of trying just to get up that hill. Now we're up in the big leagues, getting our turn at bat. As long as we live, it's you and me, baby. There ain't nothing wrong with that. We're moving on up to the east side, to a deep